So the next pointer, so 20 different amino acid make up the protein in human body. Some of these amino acid are supplied in the diet, and we normally call those essential amino acid. Others are made by the body cells. So in terms of the plant now, if the once the plant don't provide all of them, then that is when you will have a shortage. So like persons who consider themselves to be, let's say for example, they are Rasta and they don't eat meat, then they have to basically ensure that they actually take some form of supplement, and that supplement will actually give them the missing protein that they would be missing due to the fact that they are not eating any meat. Because once you eat meat, then you definitely will get all of the amino acid that you need. But if you're not eating the meat, then you're gonna short your body now gonna short of some of those amino acid that you would need. Hence, you'd have to take supplement. So proteins from animal contain all 20 amino acid, and I would have mentioned that before. So once you eat meat, pork, fish, chicken, beef, mutton, any one of those meat or any food that comes from animal, then you would get those protein. So examples of plants that normally contain protein. Let's say for example peanut, cashew, peas, beans. So those are plants that contain a lot of protein. It is just that the protein that is in these plants that they don't contain all 20 amino acid. They normally said that one or two of the amino acids are not present, and as a result they would call it incomplete protein. So proteins from plants lack one or more amino acids, so they are making that clear. So the roles of proteins in the human body. So definitely looking at what is the main reason, what is the main purpose for us consuming or eating food that contain protein. The first one they are saying to repair muscles. And in terms of repairing your muscles, this is very important because it is your muscles that allow movement to take place at joints. So in order for you to walk, it is the muscles that have to do with controlling the movement of those joints of your leg that will actually do that. So repairing muscles, now persons who of course are athletes, meaning they take part in sport, once that individual for example injured his or her muscles, or a muscle and his or her body is injured, then the medical professional will prescribe or will tell them that they need to consume or increase their protein consumption, because protein is needed in their body to repair that damaged muscle. It helps to make body cells, so the cells that make up the human body, and of course you know that we have different types of cells. So they are saying that protein help to form these body cells. So as you realize, protein form a very important role, or it form more than one important roles in the human body. So definitely it is a nutrient that of course you have to ensure that you always consume this nutrient based on what you're seeing in terms of its functions. The next role they are saying is that it make insulin and hemoglobin, another two very important substance or components of the human body. As for insulin, insulin is very important. Now, whenever you eat a meal that contain a lot of sugar, the excess or the extra sugar that is circulating around in your blood The human body cannot allow it to circulate around in your blood for any long period of time, because if that is taking place, then you can develop what is called diabetes. So to prevent you from developing diabetes, what the body do is that the body use this hormone that is called insulin to actually ensure that the excess or the extra glucose or sugar that is in your blood, it is being stored somewhere else in the body. So the insulin normally convert the excess or the extra glucose in what is known as glycogen, and definitely it is stored in that format. So glycogen is a stored format of glucose or carbohydrate, where once the human body need it later on to supply energy, then it will convert back to the glucose. So that is the function of insulin in the human body, to convert excess sugar so that the human body can store it. Hemoglobin, another very important component of the human body. In fact, it is a part of your circulatory system. So the circulatory system now, of course, transport different things in the blood. So the blood is what transport different things throughout the human body, which work with the circulatory system. So oxygen, for example, all body parts need a constant supply of oxygen. That simply means that oxygen must always be present in all body parts, because in order for us to get energy, or in order for those body parts to get energy, oxygen is needed to help release the energy. So that's why every part on the human body need a constant supply of oxygen. Now, how it gonna get that constant supply is by the circulatory system moving the oxygen or taking the oxygen from your respiratory system and take it to the brain and different body parts. So let's say, for example, your brain needs some oxygen, then it is the circulatory system that will ensure that the oxygen reaches on the brain. Now, of course, it will travel in the blood, but traveling in the blood, it need to attach to something, and that is where hemoglobin come into play. So hemoglobin is a part of your circulatory system that normally pick up and transport oxygen around the human body to the different body parts. Alright, so the fact that protein help to make hemoglobin, I mean, really show you that it is very important. Protein is very important, because if there is no protein, then hemoglobin cannot be made, and once there is no hemoglobin, then there is nothing to transport the oxygen around the human body. A next very important role for protein, they are saying that help to make enzymes. So enzymes are normally some chemicals. They normally say biological catalyst. Now the enzymes work with your digestive system, meaning that in terms of the process of digestion, how long the digestive process take place is actually shortened by the presence of enzymes. So enzymes, their function or their roles, or one of their function is to speed up the rate at which your digestive system digests the food. That's the function of enzymes. So they are basically some chemicals that are produced by your body. So that's why they say help to make enzymes. So definitely another important role. So if you're not eating enough protein, then definitely you will not be able to make enough enzyme. And once enzyme production is reduced, then definitely, I mean, person's digestive process will take a longer time for the food to digest. Alright, so some foods that contain protein, these are just a few, because I'm quite sure that you would have come across other foods that contain protein. So this is just a few of the food material that will contain protein. So meat, So basically any form of meat, but in terms of how much protein I get from the meat, it all depends on how you prepare the meat. Because for example, if you have two persons cooking, person A fry the chicken and person B bake the chicken or jerk the chicken, the person that bake or jerk the chicken will get more protein from that chicken than the person that fried. Because the person that fried, the fact that they use so much oil, meaning that it is a lot of fat that will be in that chicken. So when you bake the chicken, you will have a tendency of getting more protein from it versus you frying it. So bean, peas, any form of peas, so gongo, red peas, cowpeas, any form of peas, any form of beans contain protein. Eggs contain a lot, fish contain a lot, cheese, and they're saying ground nuts. So all of those are food that basically high in protein content. So it is a must that you at least can give me 1, 2, 3 food that contain protein, because of course you will get question that going to ask you to give some food that contain protein. Alright, so moving on to the other macronutrient and lipids, so also known as fats. So instead of having lipids, I mean you can use interchange and use the term fats. In terms of what it contain carbon, it contain hydrogen, and some amount of oxygen. So those are the elements that make up lipids, or that make up fats. Lipids can be fats and oil, so they pluralize it lipids. So we have a solid component of lipids, that would be the fats, and we have a liquid component, that would be the oil. They can dissolve in alcohol but not in water. So dissolving alcohol simply mean that alcohol can break up the different molecules that make up the lipids very easily. Alcohol can it basically can absorb alcohol. That's what so fat can absorb a lot of alcohol. So for persons who are every drinker, I mean that they drink a lot of liquor. If that individual is aware of what fats can do in terms of absorbing the alcohol, then they would eat, for example, before they start to drink, eat some pork, for example. Now, once you eat meat product, which of course contain a lot of fat, before you consume alcohol, in terms of you become intoxicated, mean that you're drunk, it is much more difficult for you to get drunk whenever you eat fat like jerk chicken, fried chicken, or pork before you start to drink. Once you eat those meat products before you start to drink, it will take a longer time for you to get drunk or feel high. And that is simply because alcohol can literally take in the fat, meaning that it actually absorbs instead of the bloodstream, because something need to absorb the alcohol in the body, because if the fat is present, then the fat will absorb it. And definitely if fat is not present, then it will go straight into your definitely bloodstream, and you wouldn't want that to happen in terms of alcohol. Fats are solid at room temperature, so once the temperature is within 37-38 degrees, they are saying that the fat normally solid. And fats are made from fatty acids and glycerol, so just like how amino acid is made up, is what made up protein. So they are saying as for fats, it is made up of fatty acids and glycerol. Fats remain in the stomach longer than other nutrients. So normally we have a tendency to say that food take approximately 3 hours to digest, 3 to 4 hours thereabout to digest. So it all depends on the length or the amount of time food take to digest in your body. basically depend on the amount of fat that is in your food. For example, so they are saying that fats remain in the stomach longer than other nutrients. So protein, carbohydrate. So in terms of the nutrients, as for them digesting carbohydrate, normally tend to digest much faster. So the 3 hours that they are talking about, they are referring to fats, for example. So once you eat a meal that contains a lot of fats, then that meal gonna take a longer time to digest, versus you eating a meal that definitely contains small amount or no fat. Yes, yes, right. I'm here. Yes, I'm hearing you. All right. It can digest. It just that it take a very long time to digest. It take a very long time, and some of the time too it take long to digest, and so you consume so much that is it is an yes, it definitely take a longer time to digest, and that is simply because the enzymes that should speed up the rate of digestion, because fat is so compact in terms of the components or it is built, it take a longer time for the enzyme to actually penetrate it. Whenever you're washing the dishes, you will realize that if the plate contain grease, it take a longer time to wash than if you're washing cups that you just drink some juice from. And again, that is the same situation. The soap that you're using, it take a longer time to penetrate the fat or the grease to allow you to wash it, as though you, in comparison to you washing the cup that you would just drink some juice from. So that is the reason why fat takes so long to digest, due to the fact that the particles, the component that make it up, it take a longer time to emulsify. Right, it take a longer time to emulsify it or break up. So not that it won't digest, just that it definitely take a longer time. All right, so now we are looking at the roles, so the functions, the importance of fats in the human body, why you consume it. So they are saying that fats provide the body with energy during respiration. So respiration is basically the process by which your body releases energy. So provide energy, that's one function for fat. It is just that the human body have to wait a longer time to get the energy from fat versus carbohydrate. So whenever you consume a meal that contain carbohydrate and it contain fat, in terms of getting the energy from those nutrients, the human body will be able to get the energy from the carbohydrate much faster. And that is simply because in terms of digestion, it carbohydrates digest much faster than fats. So that's one role or one function for fat, provide energy. The second one, they provide insulation against cold. So they are talking about the climatic conditions. So if the time is cold, persons who we consider to be obese or fat, they normally warmer than persons who are slim. And that is simply because they have so much fat within their body. So fat basically provide insulation against cold. That means that fat trap heat. So once you're cold, you want the human body to trap heat inside the human body and not let out or give off heat. So that's an advantage for persons who are obese. When the time is cold, they are much warmer, and that is simply because fat basically trap heat within the body. It don't allow heat to just go out like that. The third role, fat provide a solvent for vitamins A, D, and E. So what this means is that whenever you consume vegetable or fruits that contain a lot of vitamin A, a lot of vitamin D, and some vitamin E. They are saying that fat allow or help these nutrients to digest properly. So if there is no fat within the diet, then these nutrients will take a longer time to digest. So that's what I mean by when they say fats provide a solvent for vitamin A, D, and E. It just simply means that in the process of them being digested, fat basically give or offer a lot of help in that regard. They form an important part of cell membrane. So your body cells are normally surrounded by a part that is known as the cell membrane. So they are saying that fat help to make that cell membrane. So as you can see, we have some very important roles of fat in the human body. So it's of great importance that we consume. It is just that there's a limit. If you consume too much, then it can lead to obesity. So definitely you must just consume to the amount that you need. Some sources, so food that contain fat, they are saying margarine, pork, soya beans, we have butter, milk, and peanuts. So those are just some of the food that contain. Of course, we have several, we have a lot of food. So any form of meat product will contain some amount of fat. Any form of meat. Once it is meat, then it will contain fat. Alright, so moving on to the other category in terms of classification of nutrients. So we are now at the minerals, and minerals will fall under micro. So again, micronutrients mean that you don't need to consume these nutrients in large amount. Small amount is what is good enough, and that is simply because the human body don't depend on these micronutrients a lot. So that is in terms of providing energy or repairing body parts. So calcium is the first mineral. So it help form healthy bones, help to form healthy teeth, especially in younger children. So the bones, for example, at a tender age, it is very important for parents to ensure that their small children, they are eating enough calcium, because their bones at that stage is very fragile, so they need a lot of calcium to ensure that those bones are grow properly. Because if they are weak, then the upper body weight will bend the bones of your leg, for example, and then you kind of walk a certain way. Simply because the bones, they were weak once you were small or young, and they never get to grow properly, so they literally bend. So that's why they say especially in younger children. So once that child is consuming or eating enough calcium, then the bones definitely will be developed really strong. So that's why breastfeeding is very important, and simply because the milk will contain all of the minerals. The milk contain a lot of calcium, so that's why it is very important. But milk in general normally contain a lot of calcium. Cheese contains calcium also. But down the bottom there you'll see we have some sources. But before we move on to the sources, they are saying that this vitamin also helps the nervous system control the contraction of muscles. So in terms of the nervous system allowing your muscles to grow, not allowing your muscles to work, they are saying that it definitely help it. And there we have some sources. So anything that have to do with some form of milk product, anything that contain cheese, bread, cereals, and of course green vegetables. So green leafy vegetables. So they are saying that those definitely will contain a lot of calcium. Alright, so next mineral is iron. So form the chemical hemoglobin in red blood cell, and I would have mentioned about red blood cell while looking at protein, because protein also help to form hemoglobin. So again, hemoglobin is a part of your circulatory system where its function or its role is to carry oxygen around the body, transport oxygen to different body parts. So that's a function of hemoglobin. So they are saying that in this hemoglobin being formed or manufactured in the human body, then definitely iron play a very important role. Hemoglobin is the oxygen carrier in red blood cells, so that means that the oxygen will attach itself to the hemoglobin. So that's why it is known as the oxygen carrier. Some sources, so liver, so any form of, so liver from cow, goat, chicken. So liver on a whole will contain iron. Meat contain a lot of iron. They are saying that cereals, egg yolk, kidneys, and definitely vegetables. So those are food that will give you some amount of iron. Now, lack of iron, if you're not eating the food that contain iron, then you can suffer from this health condition that is known as anemia. So anemia is an health condition that is associated with you not consuming enough iron, and you normally get the feelings of dizziness. You feel weak, just feel tired. So those are some. You always feel sleepy. So those are some signs and symptoms that simply mean that you're developing or you're basically anemic, meaning that you have anemia. Alright, so iodine, that's our next mineral. So responsible for growth, it is responsible for production, metabolism, nerve and muscle function, regulation of body temperature, and blood cell production. So as for the iodine, they give you some example of what it basically does in the human body. Some sources, of course, you have a cheese, you have a milk, green leafy vegetable, and the list goes on. Now, that will take care of the vitamins that we need to look at. So, not the vitamins, the minerals. So, what I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna actually bring up the vitamins for you so you can see the vitamins, because it's not on the PowerPoint presentation. Alright, so this is the notes for vitamins. So vitamins, so we have different types of vitamins. We have vitamin, gonna go through the vitamins. So as for vitamin A, so they are saying that vitamin A is great, or it is very important in terms of eyesight. So consume. So if you want to have proper eyesight, definitely need to consume a lot of vitamin A. So definitely vitamin A play a very important role, because by now person should know that the ability for them to be able to see, then definitely having good nutritional intake in terms of your eating properly will go a far way, because the vitamin A help improve that eyesight. Also, it aids in maintaining healthy skin. So in terms of you having healthy skin, mean that you don't have dry skin, especially consuming a lot of vitamin A will aid in that process. In the WhatsApp group, I post the notes for the vitamins. I will also put it on the Google Classroom, so you can get the notes from the WhatsApp group when you have time, in terms of writing it in your notebooks. Now, some sources, some food that contain vitamin A, they are, for example, eggs, milk, definitely, and we have, like, for example, sweet potato, and the list goes on. So moving down to vitamin B now. And as for vitamin B, we have different type of vitamin B. We have B1, B2, B6, B12. So it all depends on which one. So vitamin B basically have different arrangement of different samples of vitamin B. As for function, vitamin B aids in generating energy that the body utilizes to carry out its activities. So in that process of the human body releasing energy, they are saying that vitamin B play a very important role in that. Vitamin B also in actively participate actively in making of red blood cell. So definitely it make the red blood cell, which is very important because it is what carry oxygen around the human body. So that's the next function for vitamin B, help to make red blood cell. Rich sources are some food that contain a lot of vitamin B. We have oats, we have wheat, we have fish, we have seafood, green leafy vegetables, and dairy products in terms of milk, any form of cereals, beans, and peas. So those are definitely a lot of food products that contain vitamin B. Alright, so as for vitamin C, vitamin C, it helps in strengthening your gums and muscles, so two very important role. Vitamin C found in citrus, so that is orange. So it also aid in the healing of wounds. So if you get a cut, vitamin C help you a whole lot. So it back in the days, vitamin C normally, especially persons who sails on ships, sailors, and out in the ocean for a number of months. Enough of them normally die as a result of lack of vitamin C, because if let's say, for example, that they get cut, once they don't have any vitamin C in the body, then that particular wound will not heal. So very important. Alright, some food rich in vitamin C. Again, we have orange, which is the citrus then there, and definitely we have tomato. They are saying cabbage, and of course strawberry. So those are just some of the nutrients that contain it. So vitamin D now help to strengthen bones. Vitamin D also help to strengthen teeth. Now, persons normally say that when you go in the sun, you get vitamin D. No, you don't get vitamin D from the sun. The sun, the energy that the sunlight can't give you any energy. It is just that the energy that comes from the sunlight, it helps the human body to use up or absorb vitamin D. That's what it does. So when you hear a person say that you must go in the sun and turn up in the sun because it will give you vitamin D, no. That's a total no. The sun don't give you vitamin D. The energy that comes from the sun, that energy light that comes from the sun, it actually stimulate, give the human body that push to actually use up vitamin D in terms of releasing it into the body parts that need it. So that's what the energy from sunlight does to individual in terms of vitamin D. Not giving them vitamin D, it just give their body the will and of course stimulate it to use up the vitamin D. Vitamin D, it also aids in absorbing calcium. So calcium is a nutrient that actually helps to strengthen your bones, strengthen your teeth. So they are saying that if you don't have enough vitamin D in the body, then it will actually slow up that process in terms of the human body absorbing the calcium. So food rich in vitamin D, fish, egg yolk, milk, any dairy products. So those rich in calcium. In vitamin D, I should say. Moving on to vitamin E. It takes care of your lungs and also aid in formation of red blood cells. So those are two functions of vitamin E. In terms of sources. So we have wheat, we have oats, we have leafy vegetable, we have egg yolk, and definitely we have nuts. So more than enough sources for us to remember. The final vitamin we're looking at now is vitamin K. Vitamin K helps in the maintenance of normal level of blood clotting protein. So when you get a cut, in order for the bleeding to stop, your blood normally clot, meaning that the particles that make up the blood, they're going to actually stick together and seal that wound, seal that blood vessel that would have damaged. So the process is called blood clotting, right? So good source of vitamin K are green leafy vegetable. We have dairy product, we have milk, and definitely pork. Right, so those are some of the foods, substances that contain vitamin K. Right, so then we have the importance of water to look at. Right, give me a few minutes away from the screen. So when I return, I'm going to look at the importance of water. Alright, so as for importance of water, very important. So water acts as a solvent as it dissolves nutrients during digestion. So water in the human body in terms of digesting those food, then water is needed to moisten them in order for them to cut up, in order for them to get softer, in order for them to get smaller in terms of size. Yeah, water is very important. So if you're not consuming enough water, then definitely the digestive process would be much slower than much longer than normal. So about 2/3 of the human body is composed of water. So that is to show you how much water that we need to consume on a daily basis if we want to maintain that good water supply. In the blood, water is very important as a solvent again in terms of transporting different things in the blood. So anything that is in the blood, it's supposed once it enter the blood, then it will become liquid, meaning that the water will break it up or melt it out and then transport it to different body parts. Form part of all body fluids. So once you are thinking of a body fluid, water is what form them. So in terms of tears, in terms of the saliva, all of those, water is what made them. So anything that is a fluid in the human body, water form a part of those fluids. That last point there that is saying that during the digestion, water hydrolyze food. So hydrolyze means that it split it up, mean that it break up the food. That's what the term hydrolyze mean there. Alright, so balance that. Once you're looking at nutrients, then definitely you need to come across this term. So a balanced diet normally be a diet where the person receive the right amount of the different nutrients the body need to stay healthy. So once you're getting the right amount of the different nutrients that you need to stay alive or that will keep you up for you to carry out whatever duty or duties you have, then definitely balance that you should consume the right amount of nutrients and not the equal amount. Because some person will think that a balance diet means that you consume equal amount of all the energy. That simply means that you consume the same amount of carbohydrates, same amount of fat, protein and minerals. No. There's a percentage. So all nutrients, there are a certain amount that you should consume. For example, they are saying 55% should be carbohydrates. So if you have a plate in front of you with food, 55% of the food in that plate should be carbohydrate. 15% of that food should be lipids. 20% should be protein, and the other 10% should include water, vitamins, and minerals. So that is to show you that as for balanced diet, there is no one nutrient that you should consume that one in so much high above the other one, or you should not consume equal amount of each. There's a percentage, so 55 should be carbohydrate, 15 should be lipids, or if you want to say fats, then of course definitely protein is very important. 20% of the protein, and the other 10% will go to water, it will go to mineral, and it will go to vitamins. Alright, so then we have a concept that is known as malnutrition. And as for malnutrition, so this normally take place when a person does not receive sufficient of one or more food groups. Right, so if you're not consuming enough protein, for example, then you is actually malnourished because you're simply not getting or you're not eating all of the nutrients. Balance diet, it can also occur when they eat too much of one or more of the food groups. So if you're eating too much, then you can be malnourished. And if you're not eating enough, then you can be malnourished. So there's a in between, which would be the perfect amount of food that you should be eating. So if you're eating too much, or if you're eating too little of a nutrient, then you would be classify our term as being malnourished. Alright, so moving on to our next concept, enzymes. So in terms of your digestive system digesting the food properly, then this chemical come into play. It has a very important role, very important function. So it is known as enzymes. So what are enzymes? Now, enzymes are normally defined or described as biological catalysts which speed up chemical reactions in the digestive system. Right? So very important. So if the human body just stop producing hormone that will help in digestion, then enzyme I should say, then definitely the digestive system would take a longer time to complete. Acts on molecules called substrates. So substrate are the nutrients and change them into one or more product. So enzyme, for example, change carbohydrate from carbohydrate and turn it into glucose, because that is the format by which plant human being can consume it. Alright, so looking at enzyme now, we have what the heading that is known as the properties of enzymes. The properties mean that um, basically some conditions that must be always present, that must be always maintained in order for the process of digestion should to be efficient. So some of the properties, the first one were best at certain pH level, so that is either acidic, that would be neutral, and definitely alkaline. Those are the three HP levels. So we're best at that pH. So down the bottom we have a scale. Right, so that is the pH scale. Now, as for this pH scale, now from 0 to 7, um, that would be acidic, while 7 would be neutral. From anything above 7 to 14, that of course would definitely mean that that substance is more alkaline. Alright, the second point, our best at certain temperature. Example 37 degrees Celsius. So if the time is just too hot or if the time is too cold, then definitely the enzyme, they will not be able to work as how they're supposed to work. Inactive at high temperature and destroyed by boiling. So if the temperature is really high, then it's not gonna work anymore. But once the temperature um, reaches that boiling point, then definitely it is working. Alright, so each enzyme only work on one substrate. What that substrate is the same thing as nutrient in this situation. So work best on only one substrate. Now what it is saying is that if you consume a meal that contain protein, it contain fat, definitely they are saying that as far the fat, for example, let's say for example the person can locate it. So fat, for example, the substrate fat, which would be the nutrient, the enzyme that help to break down fat will be a different enzyme that help to break down carbohydrate or protein. So that's why they say each only work on one substrate. So each of these enzymes will only help to digest definitely one type of food. Next pointer, break down large quantities of substrate. So whenever it is breaking down those nutrient, definitely break down in large amount. So there would be no shortage. Second to last pointer there, normally they are saying that it is not chemically changed at the end of the reaction. So what this means is that at the end of the digestive process, the enzyme don't change, the name don't change. So it is just that they ensure that the process is going on, ensure the process is taking place. The last point, they are sensitive to poison. So this simply means it is saying that when you consume food, there are enzymes in the human body to help to break down that food. But in terms of you consuming a poisonous substance, it's going to definitely kill you instantly because they are sensitive to poison, meaning that they cannot break down poison, they cannot react to poison. So the types of digestion, we have the types of digestion. And first we have what is digestion, so breaking up the food. We have eaten into small molecules. So that's the definition for digestion. If you're being asked to define it, then you can give them that. But we have more than one types of digestion. We have the mechanical, or if you want to say the physical one. So that's a type of digestion. And then definitely we have chemical digestion. So there is a difference between chemical and the mechanical, or if you want to say physical. As for the first pointer under physical, the breaking down food in the small in the mouth into smaller pieces that can be swallowed. So the food that is present in the mouth, they are saying that definitely that food need to break up into smaller pieces. So in the process of it being broken up into smaller pieces, that is where it come into play. As it will be the tooth that will split up the food because you're chewing it. The tooth is what will the teeth is basically what will actually ensure that it is break up into smaller pieces so that it can be swallowed with ease or with much more ease. So it is your teeth that will actually chew it. It is your teeth that will grind it, and in ensuring that the food is in smaller pieces, this can increase what is called surface area. And increasing surface area mean that definitely the enzyme can reach much more of the food particles or the food components.